Hey guys, and welcome into the channel. This video today is going to be talking about something that I don't know if any of you guys watching who noticed this, but college basketball. You know, it started probably about 3-4 weeks ago, and I gotta say, college basketball used to be one of my favorite sports, and it still to a certain degree is. But I always used to love, I loved the MLB, I loved the NFL, and I loved college basketball. I always thought, when you compare to the NBA to college was just so much more entertaining, and just all around, as far as the game on the court, it was more watchable. With the NBA, you had, so much contact, fouls not being called, travels are non-existent, carries are non-existent, things of that nature. It just didn't feel like it was as pure of a basketball game as the college game was. And I think a lot of people shared that sentiment with me. But I gotta say, I think about 2015, I want to say, the freedom of movement became a thing in college basketball. It may have been a little before that, but I'm going to say 2015 because I think that's what it was. But don't quote me on that. It could have been maybe even 2014, 2013, somewhere in that range. But regardless, I got to say college basketball at this point has gotten to the point where it's almost unwatchable. If you're somebody that waits, till March, February to really start paying attention to the college game, and you haven't really noticed it. Granted, it's been going on for a few years, so you should have noticed it by now. But for people that haven't, I say go watch a college game in the next couple of days, and you watch the way the referees ref the goddamn games. It's unbelievable. I'm a huge Illinois fan. I watch all the Illinois games just about. I actually went to a game at the All-State Arena against Northwestern just this past weekend, and let me tell you, it's foul after foul after foul after foul. And it's not just Illinois games. It's not just the game I was at. It's all games across every team in college basketball. Nearly 95% of the games, somewhat. You can't watch a college basketball game where the best player on one of the teams is not in foul trouble. Every game. Think about it. Okay, so you have 5 fouls in college basketball. Let's say it's Illinois against Michigan State. In the first 2 minutes, Miles Bridges gets a cheap hand check foul for foul number 1 in the first 2 minutes. He's in foul trouble now. Now Tom Izzo's probably going to have to take him out of the game because if he gets a second, he's out for the half. Basically what I'm saying here is college basketball has gotten to the point where it's nearly unwatchable because the refs are not only calling everything, but there's so many times where a foul is called and you have no idea what the foul was. The way I look at it is, if you're going to call a foul, it needs to have an impact on the game. I understand the NBA doesn't call a lot of fouls. LeBron went 12 years without fouling out of a basketball game, which is a bit ridiculous. But if I had to choose between a game where everything is getting called or a game where the refs are just out there letting the players play, give me the NBA style, the way the refs officiate in the NBA. I never would have thought I would have said that 2-3 years ago, but that's how I feel. It's so frustrating watching a college basketball game because the players aren't allowed to do anything. As far as the freedom of movement, you got to watch this post defense. It's nearly impossible to guard anybody in the post. You can't arm bar. You basically can't touch the goddamn guy or you get called for a foul. And from what I was thinking, I figured they put the freedom of movement clause in the game because they wanted to up scoring, thinking that, just like every other sport, more scoring means more eyes on the product, means more ticket, being sold, more people watching it on TV, higher ratings. But I gotta say, I've read a lot of things, and as far as I'm concerned, from everything I've gathered from research, ratings, particularly during the regular season of college basketball, are down over the last couple of years. Now, March Madness, the ratings are, the highest they've ever been. But as far as, November to end of February, ratings are down for college basketball. And we all know when March comes around, a big reason why the ratings are always there is because people are betting on those games. There's money involved in those games, so people are going to watch. Whether they think the games are entertaining, whether they don't think the games are entertaining, the fact that they have money on those games gives you a reason to watch, gives you a reason to care. With as far as the NCAA games right now, I feel like so far this year it's been worse than past years. There's been games where I've seen teams shoot 60 free throws. 60 fucking free throws in a basketball game. And keep in mind, these games are 40 minutes. There's games with 50, 60, 70 foul calls. And half of those are calls that did not need to be called. It's ridiculous. Like I said, I was at the Illinois Northwestern game, and there was a Northwestern fan sitting right behind me. Seemed like a knowledgeable guy. Guy had to be in his 30s or 40s, had a lot of Northwestern gear on. I don't know if he was an alumni of the school or what, but he was a Northwestern fan. And like I said, he seemed very knowledgeable at the game. He seemed like a guy who watched Northwestern regularly, watched college basketball regularly. And as the game was going on, I started noticing him complaining at the officials, even on fouls called on Illinois. So you got a Northwestern fan, god damn, that is a nice car. You got a Northwestern fan sitting there bitching about fouls called on Illinois. Because, I'm telling you, if you saw that game, it was foul after foul after foul after foul. The kids can't play defense. And then, once every 10 games, you'll get this officiating crew that doesn't call anything. I was watching Illinois-Maryland just 2 nights after the game I was at, and the first half, nothing was called. It was the first game all year where nothing was a foul. There was one point where one of our players, the Maryland point guard, was dribbling it up the court, and the Illinois guy literally had him in a headlock, and there was no call. All season, the first 7-8 games, you couldn't touch a guy without the ref calling a foul. All of a sudden, you get this 3-man crew that wasn't calling anything. And I got to say, that makes it really difficult for the players. They don't know. No one knows what a foul is. You hear in the NFL all the time that no one knows what a catch is. And, I agree with that. A lot of times we don't know really what a catch is in the NFL. But in college basketball, we don't know what a foul is and what is not a foul. And that's worse because, how many times in an NFL game, every NFL game doesn't have a play where a catch could be a catch or might not be a catch. That doesn't happen every game. But as far as fouls in a college basketball game, that's all the time, every single game. But yeah, all in all, college basketball, my biggest issue is the fact that the game is being slowed down. The players aren't allowed to play defense. Holy shit, that is a loud car. But and the games are becoming basically free throw contests. It's at the point now where if I'm a college basketball coach and I went out to recruit, free throw shooting is my number one priority nearly. Because almost every game, if it's 2 good teams, the game's going to come down to free throw shooting. Or if it's 2 bad teams, if the teams are somewhat equal, the game's typically going to come down to free throw shooting. Because you're going to be at the line, 30 to 40 times a game, nearly every single game. And you need depth because everyone's going to be in foul trouble. It's almost impossible for teams to play tough man-to-man defense and not have issues with fouls. And I feel like that in part is a big reason why you're seeing a lot of teams go to zone in college because it lessens the chance of you getting reach-in fouls and tic-tac on the ball fouls. A lot of illegal screens being called. Some of which, I do think a lot of college players don't set very good screens. So, I guess I'm not going to complain too much about that. But just the inability for anybody to guard in the post, all the unnecessary little hand-touch fouls. I understand the refs, have the freedom of movement. They got to, do what the rule book says. And we hear all the time about all the rule changes each and every year for the college officials. So I'm sure it's not easy. But the fact of the matter is, whether it's the officials, whether it's the NCAA making the rules, I don't care who it is, whoever it is hurting the game. Let the players play. I'm not saying go to the NBA and, or the NBA style officiating and don't call travels. I like that they stick more to the rules in the NBA. But the fouls, you need either up the fouls to 6 or 7 or let the players play because it is getting ridiculous. I'm sick and tired of watching games where it's 50, 60 free throws between the 2 teams. There's no flow to the game. It's just whistle after whistle after whistle. And whatever team shoots better at the free throw line typically wins. And, I always hear about all the people freaking out about upsets in March, how it's such a big deal. And of course I get into it too, especially if you pick it right for your bracket and it works out for you. But all in all, the thing I don't like is upsets in college basketball really are rare when you think about it. When a 2 beats a 15, when a 1 beats a 16, those are big upsets. But a lot of the so-called upsets, it's not that big of a deal because a lot of times when you look at it, that 13 that beat a 4 or that 14 that beat a 3, how much would I bet that 3 or 4 seed that got upset had one of their best players with 2 fouls in the first 10 minutes of the game? I mean, when all it takes is 1 to 2 fouls for you to be out for a whole half. I mean, if the best players or the top players on the best team aren't playing because they got tic-tac fouls early in the game, well, then they're not really that much better than the 14 seed because their best players aren't even on the floor. It would just be nice, people that are paying to go watch the games, to be able to actually see the players play. And, part of it is the college players need to learn to adapt and understand that that's the way the game is being officiated now. But, like I said, it's hard to do because, I mean, a lot of these guys, freshmen, sophomores, playing in high school, you can get away with a lot. All of a sudden you get to college and every little thing is called. And even seniors, if it was changed in like 2015, then, in freshman, sophomore years of college for those seniors, they were allowed to do a whole lot more. And then all of a sudden the rules change. And, the rules change every year for college officials. There's probably 30 to 40 rule changes every single year, which is ridiculous. But all in all, comment down below if you agree, if you've noticed how tightly the games are being called. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think that, maybe college players should be allowed more fouls? Because I've never understood. The NBA, the game's 8 minutes longer, but the NBA, very few fouls are called, especially on star players, but they get 6 fouls. College, everything is called, and you get 5 fouls. I think it was Dick Vitale said that he thinks that, if they're going to call more fouls, which they are now than they used to, then give them an extra foul. Or make the game shorter. I mean, the players need to be able to play, and they can't when everything's being called, and they are only allowed 5 fouls. So, all in all, college basketball is still a great sport. It's still one of my favorites, but it's getting more and more tough to watch. And I can't watch a game without being frustrated anymore, it doesn't seem like. So, just sick of the foul calls. Anytime I hear the goddamn whistle, I want to shoot myself in the head with a gun. So, hopefully it gets better. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment, like the video, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Either way, look forward to seeing some comments, guys. Thank you very much. It's a cold-ass day here in Illinois. It's like 10 fucking degrees. It's windy as shit, but it's okay, because college basketball's on tonight. We get to watch some fouls. But thanks, guys. I'm out.